welcome back to this new training session. In this training session, we are going to create the Field Worker Inspection app. This app will have two pages. On the first page, we are going to have one list, and on the second page, we are going to see the information about the inspection and several ways to register the inspection. So let's jump into the designer and let's start to create the application. Let's create the app. Let's call it ZUI underscore field worker insp. The package is the $temp and let's save. Now let's jump into the Eclipse and create the class. Let's name the class ZCL underscore field worker inspect. Let's insert a description like field worker inspection. Let's add the interface if underscore NID underscore server and let's save the class. Now let's use the quick fix in order to create all the interface methods. Now let's activate the class. Let's copy the name and jump into the app designer. Let's pass the name and let's activate the app. We are going to create an application that consists on two pages. So let's start by dragging the shell and the app. And let's also put the two pages. Let's rename the first page to My Inspection Jobs. And let's rename the second one to View Inspection Job. Now let's start to configure the first page. Let's add a title. Let's give it the name My Inspections. Now let's start to build the list. So let's drag a list, and in this case we want to build a custom way to display the data. So let's add a custom list item. Now let's start to configure the list. Let's rename it to OList Inspection Jobs. And let's also change the no data text to no inspection. Now let's bind the list. Let's press the model button and let's assign the table to the list. As you can see, we don't have any tables on the list. That's because we didn't create any table on the Eclipse. So let's jump into the Eclipse. In order to speed the process, we have prepared the ABAP code earlier. So let's just pass here the types. This type includes all the fields that we are going to need. And let's create a work area and a table. Let's activate the class and jump into the app designer. Let's close the window and open it again. And now we have the work area and the table. Let's choose the table. Let's activate the application and see the outcome. As you can see, no data is displayed because we didn't finalize the configuration. Let's set the initial load to online. Let's activate. Now we have an error message because we didn't define an Ajax value. Let's define the Ajax. Let's type get inspections. Let's activate the application and jump into the Eclipse to finalize the code. Now let's create the case. Let's use the variable Ajax underscore ID. Let's put a when. In there, let's type get underscore inspections. Let's do a end case. And let's pass the select. In there, we are selecting all the entries from the inspection table interjoined with the equipment table. We are filtering by the employee ID. Let's activate the class and jump into the application. Let's activate the application, and as you can see, now we have some data. Now let's configure the way that we want to display the data. Let's start by dragging a tile. Let's use the generic tile. Now let's activate the application in order to see if we have multiple rows. As you can see, we have several lines. Let's go on. Let's start by configuring the header. Let's bind and concatenate the part number with the name. Let's apply a formatter in order to display the information in a proper way where the field worker can understand easily. So let's choose the formatter. For now, let's only apply a dash between both of the variables. Now let's configure the subheader. In there, we want to display the days until check. Let's use a formatter in order to change the way that the information is shown. In this case, we want to include the unit. So let's add in the end days. Let's activate and see the outcome. Okay, as we can see, we have information, but the information is being displayed in a way that it's not perfect. So let's change the width of the generic tile. Let's use an expression. So let's put calc. Let's open the brackets. We want to apply 100% minus 35 pixels. Let's also do one thing. Let's apply a style class margin. Let's use a small margin all around. Once more, let's activate the application and see the result. As you can see, now the tiles are occupying the full width of the screen minus the 35 pixels. We also applied the gap all around. Visually, this way the information is more readable. Right now we are seeing the information white on white, so this can be a little bit tricky on the eyes to see where the tile will end. So let's create some contrast. And we can do that by changing the background property of the list to transparent. Let's do it. Let's activate the application. And as you can see, now we have the gray background with the tiles being white. Now let's start improving the way that the information is displayed. First thing first, let's add a label behind the days until check. So let's jump again into the formatter and concatenate the label on the beginning. Let's add the label checkup deadline. Let's activate, and as you can see now, it's easier to read the information. Now let's go on and create the status of the tasks that need to be performed. Let's start by dragging the tile content, and we also need to include an icon tab bar. Let's change the property expandable to false. Let's drag 5 icon tab filters. Let's change the name of the first one to tab submitted. On the icon, let's bind the status variable. And we also want to bind the status on the text. We will need to include a formatter because the icon is expecting to have a formatted icon type like SAP-icon column / and the name of the icon. And in our case, the variable contains assigned, submitted, completed, or rejected. If we use it like this, we will have a JavaScript error. So let's pass the code into the formatter. As you can see, we will check for the assigned status, and if it's assigned, we will change the icon to activity individual. If the status is submitted, we'll put the pending icon. If it's complete, we will change to the complete icon. If it's rejected, we will put the window dash close. We will also change the icon color. On the sign-up, we will put the default that is blue. On the submitted, we will put critical because it's yellow. On the complete, we will put positive that it's green. And on the rejected, we will use the negative that it's red. Let's activate and see the result. As you can see, we have all the options available. Now let's go on to the second filter. Let's change the name to tab comment preview. Let's also add the icon. Let's choose the comment dash dots. Let's also add text. Let's put comments on the text. Let's also change the icon color. In this case, we cannot use the formatter because we didn't bind any variable to the icon color property. Instead, we are going to do on a different way. We are going to use an expression to do this. So let's open the binding and let's use the expression. In this case, we are going to check the comment variable to see if it's null. If it's null, let's put the default color. Let's also do the same for the empty. Otherwise, let's put a positive color. Let's activate and see the result. Let's improve visually the application. Right now we have the main information that shows the reject or the submitted in line with the comments. But the comments are the subtasks of the full inspection. So let's create a gap between them. Let's use, for in this case, the icon tab separator. Now the information looks much more readable, but we can see that we have different layouts on the icon, so let's adjust that. The icon is different because it's showing as expanded. So let's go to the icon tab bar and change the property expanded to false. Let's activate the application once more. Now, as you can see, we have the same layout in both icons. Let's go on to the third one. Let's change the name to tab picture preview. Let's also change the icon to picture. On the icon color, we are going to use the same method. Let's pass the bind expression. In this case, we want to check the attachment to see if it's null or empty to set the color to default. Otherwise, we are going to set it to positive. Let's also add a text, pictures. Now, let's go on to the next tab filter. This one, we are going to change the name to tab barcode preview. Let's also change the icon and add the icon barcode. We are going to use the same binding expression in the icon color. In this case, we are going to check the variable equipment underscore barcode underscore scan. Let's also add the text barcode. And on the last one, let's rename it to tab seek preview. Let's add the icon signature. On the icon color, let's use the expression binding. In this case, we want to check the signature variable. And let's type on the text signature. Let's activate and see the result. As we can see, we have blue in some of them and the green on the others, meaning that the ones that have the green, the tasks were already performed. As a final step on this training session, let's create the press event of the tile. Let's start by going into the code snippet to get the selected row. So let's go to the SAP UI5, sap.m.list/sap.m.table, and in there we have the get selected row. Let's click it. Let's remove the lines that we don't need. Let's add a console log and print the data variable. And let's also navigate to the next page. So let's go to the code snippets, SAP Y5, other, and let's choose the navigate. Let's remove all the ones that we don't need. Let's keep only the OApp.2. In this case, we need to change the name instead of OApp to app. And the next page is the view inspection job. Let's activate and try the application once more. Additionally, let's also open the console to see if the information is printed. Let's choose one of the lines, and as you can see, we can see the information and the app navigates to the next page. And with this, we conclude this training session. Looking forward to see you on the next one.